And we are back. This is K24 this morning. My name is Mungala Mbuvi. We are having a discussion in regards to the road to a consensus, and I do have Gloria Oroba, a youth policy analyst. We have Dennis Anyoka, advocate of the High Court, and Frederick Okango, the Secretary General, Third Way Alliance, Kenya. We did ask you a question earlier on that you obviously will respond to us through our social media pages. Now, is a consensus going to bring national unity? Is a consensus going to bring along national unity? Let's take a look at what you are saying on WhatsApp. All right, there is nothing like a consensus or a non-contested referendum in a democracy. Even 2010 was not supported by every Kenyan, only 67%. Let those who oppose come with their initiative, but as usual for democracy, the majority will carry the day. As the minority remain with their say, dissenting voices will always be there. In fact, the church should be the first, or rather the last, to talk about the constitution. They opposed the 2010 told us it will never pass because God had spoken, so the rest is history. Okango has put it very clear in black and white. They dismiss every constitution initiative, then come in the last minute. All right. That's a valid point, by the way. Good morning, Buvi. Consensus will definitely bring unity, but it is high time we need to have an effective consensus. I will urge the politicians to give the Wanjiko a chance to do it because it is of no use or if they will handle it themselves. And it has to go all the way past 2022. This is Ahmed from county number 4. All right, thank you very much, Ahmed. Consensus cannot be guaranteed in a democratic country. People will always have different opinions and views. A referendum will definitely be there, Dr. Lucy Inchuka. Thank you very much, Daktari, for your feedback. And of course, keep talking to us. Let's talk about the road to a consensus and if at all, it will bring along national unity. And Dennis, I was to ask you this question as we took that break. For 2 years, all these politicians had these 2 years to have this engagement and conversation. But, you know, Gloria has just mentioned that why is it that they never included the special groups, the people living with disabilities, the young people? Why didn't they have people from marginalized communities such as the pastoralists and so on and so forth? Why are we getting to hear of these stories right now?
As I mentioned this earlier when we were at the break, that if you look at the history of the BBI process, it was meant to, bring the two political factions together to solve a political problem. Therefore, the handshake came in, then thereafter the 9-point agenda, and there was a script sold to Kenyans that going forward, we must have a country that is not going to be polarized after the elections, which was a very good idea. And everybody said, okay, that's a good idea, go ahead and let us see what happens. Many people raised concerns that with that good idea, the way it has been started, it's more of political than illegal. And if you are getting a political solution, then bring all the political players on board. And remember, the Kalonzos were demanding for their own handshake. And the Mudavadis and the rest were saying, look, we've been left out. And we want, if really you are looking for a political solution, we want to be involved for all to give our views politically.
All right.
The idea, mutated as we went along. Now, constitutional proposals came in. And that is how now you find many people are left out.
Okay.
So when you look at the first draft that was issued, literally every person who read the document said, this document doesn't seem to have big issues, let's go ahead and implement it. Now, that did not happen. The second report has come out after what is called validation. I mean, this is the only report in Kenya where we have had to do it twice to get some further recommendation to be brought into on board. The effect of the current recommendation now is what has brought a challenge. And that document, is a document that Kenyans, I doubt whether majority of Kenyans have read and understood it. It's quite intense. You need to split it and look at the proposals vis-a-vis the current constitution. Look at the proposal vis-a-vis what we have in terms of legislative provisions. Look at whatever they are proposed as against the current administrative measures that we have. Once you are able to dismember it into those levels, then you will be able to say whether that document is making sense if it's implemented as is or it's not. Now, the issue that we have, and many Kenyans, and you've had the SUPKEM speak, you've had the Conference of Bishops speak, very many lawyers have come out strongly and said this is a document that cannot be implemented as is because the proposals in the constitutional amendments are at two levels. There are those that need a referendum. Those that need a referendum, they are recommending far-reaching proposals whose effect, if implemented, will really water down what we have.
Okay.
And that is what people are saying, okay, you want the report to be implemented, fine. You wanted to bring unity. We do not bring unity because you have dismantled the judiciary by bringing an ombudsman who is an executive person, increasing the representation of members of the executive appointees in the JSC, and given people mandate to now discipline the judges so that if they are unhappy, they will go back to the revisiting proposal by the president that we shall revisit. We don't want a country like that.
Okay.
So when that comes out, we are telling you, look, let us agree that this particular proposal should be shelved.
All right.
And if we need to do that amendment, then we need to have a broader discussion because that was not the issue
which will take some time.
Which will take some time.
Okay. Ngoja tu kidogo. Frederick, let me just bring you onto that particular point. This is a country that had a referendum 10 years ago. You know, when rather we just introduced a constitution 10 years ago. Is it really necessary right now to have another constitution, or rather another referendum that is going to give us some extra time again to start implementing all these things that have been proposed, yet we can just go back to the 2010 constitution and still implement it further and better than we have already done it?
Mbuvi, the confusion that is facing Kenyans today is, are we making a new constitution? Are we amending, or are we changing? The fact of the matter is we are amending the constitution. We are not making a new constitution. 10 years ago, Kenyans made a new constitution. It is new. And therefore, the drafter of the constitution gave us 3 articles that are very important. Article 255, Article 256, and Article 257. The reason why the drafters provided for that is so that whenever any Kenyan feels that there's an issue in the current constitution that needs an amendment, there's a procedure and way of amending. And whenever any Kenyan feels that there's a section that is working very well and can be made better, there's a provision and procedure of doing so. And that's why today we are talking about amending the constitution. If you read the BBI report, the bill that Wakil is talking about is a constitutional amendment bill, Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. Right. It is not a new thing. And by the way, the entire constitution, the 56 articles, there are only, I think, 56 articles that have been proposed for amendment. And some of those amendments that have been proposed have got far-reaching effect, as he has said. But listen, there is nowhere in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and if there's any, somebody can challenge me today, that says that because we had a constitution that is now 10 years, we cannot amend it till this time. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 does not provide for the timelines of amendment. And that's why those, articles 255, 256, 257 are open. You can even promulgate this constitution today, and tomorrow any Kenyan feels that, by the way, I don't like the structure of the executive, they can go through 257 and start the initiative, the same way we did with Puguza mizigo. But that's not the issue. The issue here is consensus. People are talking about consensus, but I've unpacked and debunked the lies about consensus. Kenyans agree. Even those who want consensus, they know very well that we have got challenges with corruption, we have got challenges with unemployment, we have got challenges with joblessness, and we have got challenges with dealing with the young people. Look at what they are doing today. Parties, orgies, and people are dying, Now, for me, what I want to say is this. We have got historical challenges. And particularly, I want to speak to the women this morning. The historical challenges that has discriminated the women in leadership, both appointive and elective. Those historical challenges are injustices that must be fixed if we are going to go and grow to the developed country. And I like what Gloria is saying. The women have been brought to the Senate. And I want also to debunk the lie that they have been dumped there. They have not been dumped there. Today, with this proposal, we can actually say that the women have been given a voting right that they didn't have elsewhere. Because most of them in the National Assembly are nominated. And even those who are in the Senate are nominated. But here we are repealing Article 123 that gives them just, provisions to escort the leaders of delegation to go and vote in terms of Senate decisions. Today, they can make a decision by voting.
Number two,
there are women in this country, and majority of them are suitable, competent, and capable.
All right.
Why are we not giving them that opportunity? And lastly, Mbuvi, before my colleagues chip in,
okay,
we have seen the issue of BBI 1. Let's talk about it. If you look at the BBI 1, in my estimation and knowledge, that BBI 1 is exactly the BBI 2. Because now, BBI 1 did not come with the Constitutional Amendment Bill.
Yes.
It did not come with the implementation metrics, administrative and policy. But this one, it has broken the report now into those 3 areas or those 4 areas of implementation matrices.
Right.
Today, we cannot say it is a different document. Why people are getting scared is because now talking about areas that will require constitutional amendment. That is the norm, because if there is an area that must be amended, it must go to the people.
Okay,
but I agree, Mbuvi,
yes,
that consensus is key. But look, where do we need consensus? Are there issues that we can start implementing today? Yes. Legislative implementation. What is taking so long that the parliament cannot start looking at the electoral laws, Political Parties Act,
without
the
necessarily waiting
payment?
for BBI?
Then now we shift gears and say, okay, fine. There are 5-6 areas that will require popular vote at the ballot.
Okay.
Then, because it's a democracy,
yeah, just hold on.
We have to correct Okango, because he can't come here on national TV and start saying BBI 1 is the same as BBI 2. I mean, are we fools? If BBI 1 is the same as BBI 2, what happened to the expanded executive? Or where did it come up from? And then if it is the same, why did they waste our time trying to relaunch again the BBI 2 and validation and going around?
Yeah.
Let's also Kenyans are not that stupid, guys. We are not that silly. We know very well there's a difference between the Building Bridges Initiative, the first report that came out, and the second report. And that's the reason why all these constituencies of people have come out to say, actually, this is not what we signed up for. And I wish we could be speaking so passionately about...
Are you saying then that when, BBI 1 was they had no problem?
Nobody had a problem with BBI 1.
So now BBI 2 is one that has...
Yes, because BBI 2 sneaked in all sorts of constitutional amendments, including that expansion of the executive, which is the biggest issue that a lot of people are kind of like, why do we need all these extra things? And by the way, Okango can sit there and talk about BBI 2 has no problem. And he pushed for Puguza mizigo. How exactly is this BBI 2 relevant to Puguza mizigo when they're actually adding more people in power? So, for me, let's just be honest. If we're going to speak passionately about any reports in this country, let's speak about the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation report.
Okay.
Because that report addresses at least 4 of the 9-point agenda that the Building Bridges Initiative addresses. If we can just refresh ourselves and go back to the TGRC report, and they were talking about socio-economic empowerment and the violations that have been done at that time. They were talking about how we are going to push for national unity because of all this conflict that we keep having with marginalized communities and land issues and all of that. And the thing about that report as well is that it even had an implementation mechanism that was not complicated. You understand? It was not, now, lawyers will tell you, we can't, this BBI 2 is difficult because in order to do this needs a referendum, this needs this is very complicated. TGRC was very straightforward and clear, but there was no goodwill because nobody really cares about uniting Kenyans in this situation. So if it's about building bridges and uniting Kenyans, let's go back to the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report and speak passionately about it. Implement it because taxpayers' money was actually spent on that whole thing. Implement the things that we can implement from there. And you'll notice that 4 of those 9-point agenda that BBI is now coming to tell us it's addressing would have already been addressed. Okay. And the rest, as Okango keeps saying, is administrative matters, and they do not require a constitutional amendment.
Dennis, I saw you wanted to interject at one point as Frederick was speaking. So before I engage you on a different situation, probably we can talk about that as well.
Yes, I think Gloria has mentioned that clearly there is no single person in this country who has a monopoly of knowledge and the content of the 2 reports. We have all read the 2 reports, and the first report was radically different from what we have now seen today. We do not have a proposal where the IEBC, an independent commission, needs to change the matrix of appointing the commissioners and have the politicians have a say on who will be sitting as a commissioner. 4 of the 7 commissioners, in effect, making the commission not independent, because if you appoint me from a Jubilee party, I mean, I'm a candidate proposed from Jubilee party, then I will go there and invariably I will have to protect the Jubilee party agenda within this electoral process.
Exactly.
So, and we need an independent commission. So these are proposals were not there. And if they were there in the first report, then obviously we could have come out strongly and indicated that that is something that is not acceptable because we want to give independence to the institutions protected, and then going forward we ensure that our institutions are working for us and not taking us back to the time because we have had this before and there's a problem. And when you look at the kind of proposals that we have right now, other than the implementation matrix, which Okango is talking about, the actual proposals on terms of some of the items that needs now to be dealt with, they go deeply into changing the independence of the institutions that we have, which is something that has to be, addressed and stopped on its tracks. We cannot have a country where we change the law. Whereas it's right, anybody can propose amendments, but we cannot change it because one or two people feel that there's a problem. Then we bring in the bigger question that even if we have to continue having this discussion as to what constitutional amendment we need to have, whether we will have the amendment constitutionally by way of a referendum or not, we have a bigger problem right now. We have a healthcare issue. It was part of the Big Four agenda. Why are we spending a lot of energy and a lot of finances
on this
dealing with a constitutional amendment that requires a discussion when Kenyans are dying?
Let me ask you then.
About finances, sorry about that.
Yeah.
People have been saying that anyone can come up with whether it's Puguza mizigo, you're free to go and look at how to change the constitution. It's your right. The reason why Kenyans have been questioning BBI is because first, it's not clear who's financing it. Is it coming from the taxpayers' money? Because if you ask Okango, ask him whether the government financed Puguza mizigo. The government did not finance Puguza mizigo. So for us, we are concerned because it's like, fine, anyone has the right to go and push for something, a constitutional amendment. But then if you're using the taxpayers' money, suddenly, now it's not about you. It's about our money. It's about, this is now a government initiative. And that's the difference between people saying, if you want changes, why don't you start with your own document? If we start with our own documents, are you going to give us the kind of money that you have pumped into BBI?
Okango, you're smiling about this.
You know why I'm smiling?
Who financed Puguza mizigo in case a Kenyan who doesn't know? And then number two, the fact that now we are looking at an expanded executive, like Gloria is saying. Does that now mean that we are looking at a situation where we'll have now national unity just because we have a PM from a certain area and a VP from a certain area and a president from a certain area?
Okay, Mbuvi, allow me to respond candidly. Number one, Gloria has sold Puguza mizigo, and we thank him for that as a party because that's a brand. And I really appreciate that we believe in Puguza mizigo. And I also want to tell Gloria that Puguza mizigo proposes a lot of issues that are affecting, the common man. And if you look at our document and some of the issues that BBI are raising, they are converging. Number one, we are talking about the socio-economic burden. The greatest burden that is bedelving the people of Kenya is the socio-economic burden. And I've explained. That's why we are strengthening devolution, and you can see BBI is doing the same. World Development Fund taking the services closer to the people, to their doorsteps. We're talking about fighting corruption. The BBI is also talking about expediting the trial, prosecution, and all those things on matters of economic theft of public money. We're talking about effecting the two-thirds gender principle. They're talking about the same. So there are areas of convergence, and that's why for me as Frederick Okango, I believe that the greatest burden that Kenyans are carrying is socio-economic burden. Number two, she has talked about expanding the executive. I have read the BBI report severally, and I have not seen anywhere where you can actually justify there's an expanded executive. And I'll explain. The BBI report, I have not seen them proposing to amend the provisions of Article 152, 1D, that gives the cap to the composition of the executive. Instead, they are bringing in a PM and two deputies who actually, in real sense, are members of parliament or cabinet members. And therefore, that provision of the number, at least 15 or not more than 22, I have not seen it change. Number three, Gloria is talking about issues to do with TJRC. I want to give Gloria my copy of the BBI report so that she goes and read it. Page 16, it acknowledges that Kenyans want the TJRC report implemented.
Yes.
And BBI gives that also in the philosophical manner on page 16 on how that should be implemented. I don't think that that is an issue because Kenyans know that we have got reports that are in the shelves, and in those reports, we have got solutions. But how do we implement those solutions with a country that is politically divided, divisive elections every 5 years, where we lose 420 billion, and I'm quoting World Bank, after every election cycle? Do you think really we can still sit as a people of this country and see us lose money? Because we are saying we have got
hold on.
So, Gloria,
yes,
I appreciate, and I really thank you. And I want to invite Gloria
to respond to some of the concerns.
Dennis, I'm getting to you shortly.
Yes.
Frederick, just hold on.
Okay.
In case you're just joining the conversation, we are talking about the road to a consensus. And is the BBI going to at all give us that national unity that we're looking for? On page 5 of the People Daily, farmers want their views captured in the BBI report. Dial *550*4#. And for only 10 bob, get this copy and read much more on some of the special groups that have expressed interest. No data, 10 bob, no application needed for this conversation. But yes, Dennis, I mean, Frederick obviously has come in to say that Puguza, mizigo and the BBI report, two different documents championing for two different things. And he's actually saying that this is not an expanded executive as much as we have, you know, extra offices. They're just going to be picked from already existing officers.
I think that is unfortunate when it comes from, I think, a colleague who was read the report. And we all agree that the executive, when you have a prime minister, you have two people, the nature of expenditure that goes to it, the kind of executive you have is not the same as what we had before. We have shifted the powers, we have shifted the manner of operations, and we have increased the budget that goes to these people. And if we are saying we have a challenge on social economic issues and the burden that Kenyans face, then we should be the first people to say, why are we increasing the number of people to make the executive decisions? What does it help us? Does it make Kenya more united politically because you have a prime minister? Which is a question that we keep asking. And that is why do we say you've referred to a farmer saying the one they have used incorporated?
Right.
It's because when all this BBI started, it was supposed to fix a political problem. But it has now shifted. We are having a constitutional discussion on amendment and increasing the executive and, you know, changing the clauses here and there. And they're saying, okay, if we're going to have one referendum, why can't we have all our views incorporated and be brought into this document so that then we can consider that once? Which should not have been the case if the people who are, the promoters of the handshake and the BBI had stuck to what they wanted to achieve, which was solve a political problem. If they needed any amendments, make proposals that make sense in achieving that amendment. This is what we are witnessing today, is where you have symptoms and signs of malaria, you go to the hospital, and you insist that you must now be given medication for pneumonia because you have a cold and a fever, and it's part of what you feel when you have pneumonia, which I think does not make sense. What we need is to look at what political problem that we have, which is a very noble idea. We have divisive elections every time. We have whatever it is they have to identify. Then give proposals that really solve that problem, and not start saying, okay, let us now have, amend the constitution and change the composition, the way of appointing, members of the IEBC, change the way, the independence of the police, which we've been struggling to achieve. Now, we want to now have women taken to the Senate, elected, and be placed there, therefore making the two-third gender rule affirmative action permanent, constitutionally. And we tell you, we do not need that. For now, probably women are disadvantaged. 10 or so years from now, that will not be the case. We will not talk about women. Perhaps there will be a different level. We should have actual affirmative action. Even this two-third gender rule does not talk about women. It talks about either gender. We don't change it and become a women business. And if we are giving proposals on ensuring for now, our problem is that we have less women in a representative position, let's address it without making it a permanent appointment for women. We are not targeting women because they have a problem.
Yes.
They are very capable. When we look at these issues, you cannot say, it's similar. The two documents are similar. This is a document that is becoming, like the blood of Jesus coming to wash away all our political problems and all the things we have as a country. We should be able to properly identify what solutions are workable for us. That is why some of the proposals can easily pass, because we don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
They
make sense.
You want university students to come out of university, they don't pay help, so be it. We don't need a constitutional amendment. Go to Parliament, change the laws. They are the ones who put 5,000 shillings per every month for students to keep paying.
Yeah.
Scrap it off.
Yeah, actually the 5,000 is for defaulters.
Yes, for defaulters. These people are defaulting because they don't have money, they don't have jobs. You are talking about tax holidays to the youths. They don't have the capital to go invest so that you can give them the tax holiday.
Gloria, do you think what Dennis has said in terms of us having a process that actually makes sense in achieving these amendments, currently, do you feel as though the process that we are using is making any sense at all?
I first want to state categorically that Fred Okango is lying about what building bridges
Lying
initiative.
is a strong word.
It is a lie, because when you say that we have not expanded the executive simply because we have not changed this particular article of the Constitution, and now you've found another legal loophole to bring in more people by appointing them, then you are lying to Kenyans, because we have the president and the deputy president, and according to what the Building Bridges Initiative is suggesting, we are going to have prime minister, we're going to have, well, it's an expanded executive. And these people are going to be appointed, and these people are going to actually use state funds because they need security, they need allowances, they need aids, they need offices, they need all those things. And that simply is not Puguza mizigo. And I'm actually very disappointed, because Okango is a driver of Puguza mizigo initiative. And I don't know what these guys have lied to him about and convinced him to come and sit in National Studio and completely, look very confused. How are you Puguza mizigo when you are adding more people on the top? How is that? And by the way, he didn't even answer us. Building Bridges Initiative was sponsored, or allegedly, and we are wondering who is paying for it, by a government initiative. We asked him a very clear question. Who paid for Puguza mizigo? We would like to know that.
Frederick,
but first, one thing I also wanted to put in there. Okango is talking about BBI says, he wants to give me his copy of, we were there in Bombers together. I have a copy of BBI and I've read it, and I've read it 3 times.
Yes.
And on page 16, when they're talking about we shall implement the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission. So did I need another report to come and tell me that they're going to implement a report that exists?
Okay, good question. Okango, last sentiments, of course, and I'll give you, please, 40 seconds on this one, because we need
I think, Movie, as I said, I welcome, as the SG, I welcome Gloria to the party. And we shall with the membership number. Now, but the issue here is Movie. Puguza mizigo was funded by ordinary folks.
Okay.
That is there. Number 2, I have no authority to speak on behalf of BBI because they are running their thing. But as a Kenyan who believes in this country, and I want to tell Gloria today, forget about the political inclusion, but you as a parent, you as a Kenyan who says love this country, look at the socio-economic burden that you are carrying as a Kenyan. The taxes, the tax regime, the unemployment, the joblessness, that is a socio-economic burden that we must do away with. And how? Look, in Puguza mizigo, and I've seen it in BBI too, the proposal to increase the equitable share from at least 15% to 35%, and all the way going beyond the county headquarters to the ward level of 5% of 35 is a noble idea that even as we had it. And we are saying we are now going to have to measure development from the ward level, where we are going to have all the needs of the Kenyan, so that people are equal. When you are in Nairobi, Kileleshwa, you shall be equal with somebody in Homa Bay County, Kasipul, Kabondo, where I come from, because you will be getting the same services.
So
that is a provision in the Constitution that requires state to provide those services equitably.
So you're saying the report is as good as we can get?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying
he's sitting on the fence and confused.
Burden is a bigger burden that should not cloud Gloria's eyes and think of political burden. For you to fix the issues of this country, start with the economic burden. We all agree, and I'm sure she agrees, that today, even when she's filling her car, the big machine, it costs her more. Why? Because of the economic system. So we want to say that Kenyans must stop being fooled, because the politicians like us will tell you that, you know what, the issue is just expanded executive, but they're forgetting to look at the report and issues that are affecting them. People are talking about farmers. Look at the economy and shared
Okango.
prosperity, sustainable agriculture,
Okango.
sustainable economic development.
Okango, we are not
Secgen,
sold. We are not sold.
Secgen,
We are not sold.
I get your point, and unfortunately, we'll have a different forum to talk about that.
We better have
Dennis, last sentiments, please. 15 seconds, tafadhali, Dennis. Nisinyongo na director.
Thank you, Mbuvi. I believe that Kenyans should appreciate the real issues that affect them and should look at the report and should put pressure on their leaders to focus on what really is affecting them right now. We have a problem with the health sector. In fact, if the government of Kenya could have ensured that all Kenyans can get free health care,
Yes.
we can get quality health care. We do not need to get MPs to ask for ambulances to lift them from wherever they are to another facility, to ensure that we have put our resources so that every Kenyan can get oxygen in wherever place it is. We have a COVID problem. We do not lose our doctors because we are not able to finance this.
Yes.
The resources we have for this, referendum discussion and all these issues to be channeled to what is urgent and needful right now.
Okay.
Then look at the report and disagree with those things that will affect the country and take it back to where we have come from, including changing independence of institutions. Whatever else is good, let us put pressure on our leaders to pick the good items that do not need constitutional changes
And we move on.
Implement them and move on.
Gloria, 5 seconds. Are we going to get unity from this or not? The road to consensus.
This morning I want to speak to our president.
Yes.
I'm very happy that he halted that reggae. I'm very happy that he said, guys, actually there's too much noise. I need to go to my corner seat and think, because I think that's what he did.
Okay.
And for me, that it's like a ray of hope that we
Yes.
actually have a sane leader up there thinking about Kenyans, us Kenyans, not these politicians who are running around trying to push their own interests. And so I hope that from this halt of reggae, we'll come up with a consensus document, a consensus about the solutions to these problems that we've highlighted.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We come to the end of that discussion right here. But tomorrow we still continue this conversation, not ending anytime soon. But as we take that short break, we'll be right back with Shiku Kaitani and Alvan Love, who is sitting on behalf of Jeff Mott as far as the G3 is concerned, talking about all the trending stories that happened in the last couple of hours. Do not go too far. We'll be right back. You can get your copy of the People Daily *55. That is *550*4# for only 10 shillings. You do not need any data or any application to get the People Daily. A lot of stories here that you need to get in touch with. That is *550*4#. No data, only 10 bob. Get that copy. We'll be seeing you shortly.